Alright guys, and welcome back to our little analyzing segment here. I'm here with SmallAnt 1, the taskmaster of Season 2. What's up, SmallAnt?
Hi there.
And yeah, task for Lost Kingdom, one of the most interesting ones yet. It seems it was by far the shortest one as well. But I'm interested as always, SmallAnt, what inspired you to come up with this task?
When I went to this kingdom, a lot of the other tasks had a lot of objectives, like you'd have to collect 3 of something and then 2 of another thing. With this one, I went into the kingdom and I saw there were trap beetles, I saw there were a lot of trees and a lot of fuzzies, or a few fuzzies. And those were the things that I kind of figured were unique about this kingdom. I wanted a task that had those unique things, and after looking at it, it seemed like having one of each would be really simple, but make it so it's a short task, but the movement would be really hard, because you'd be forced to move around while the trap beetle was holding Cappy, and then you'd have to figure out how to move off of the tree and stuff. So I figured it would encourage a lot of really cool and unique movement.
Yeah, let's run down these objectives real quick because they are quite unique. But if you look at the first one, and let's just use the Trapetal as the first one, as you just said, as soon as the Trapetal basically has control over Cappy, you are forced to do movement in this game without Cappy, which is super awkward because you basically at this point are spoiled in Odyssey to do all these cap dives and vaults and like just cap stalls in the air. And suddenly that option gets taken away from you, so you need to be efficient without using Cappy. And then for the fuzzy part, actually one thing that I had issues with a lot is that that's not a real capture. Usually when you need to capture something with Cappy, you can home it into the capture. However, the fuzzy is not considered a capture. It's not considered a coin or a shard or anything. So you can not home Cappy towards that objective. You would need to actually snipe it either with a spin throw or with a normal throw. But that makes things a little harder. And then lastly, the tree, which actually is probably the most awkward thing in this entire task, because no matter which route you chose, you would need to actually at least maybe get on top of the tree and then roll boost off one of the leaves, or just quickly jump off of the tree. And that part gets actually really awkward as well, but super unique on the other side.
That tree the movement on that tree is so strange.
But as we basically just ran down, there were a lot of options. However, our top 4 here probably chose the best ones for this route, at least for this task at least. So I think that's a good time to look at these runs a little bit more in detail.
Yeah. None of these runs were the same. There was something unique about each of them that actually made it so it's kind of a pretty varied top 4 overall.
Yeah, I think it is actually interesting to at first start with the common thing all of these runs have in common, because there's that one, obviously, that one thing that all of these runs have in common, which is the checkpoint. That checkpoint, you were able to choose a checkpoint in this kingdom, but it turns out this checkpoint is just the best option because it has tropetals close by, it has a tree literally directly behind you, it has fuzzies not too far away from you, and the one awkward thing, and these 4 people, all of them had actually their own strat to kind of speed up that section, but to get the tropetal you would either need to drop down, or as we see on Relaxmus task, I guess go to the other side and do a down throw, but you would need to deliver Cappy to the tropetal in some shape or form first, before you were able to get back to the tree and then finally to the fuzzies as well.
Yeah.
And if we start off by looking, actually, in my opinion, we should go from last to first here to see how these tasks and these routes improve. We should probably start with Cookie here, who actually decided to start with a spin throw to one of these higher steps into a down throw, I think it seems like. Actually, going into a long jump.
Spin, pound, roll, long jump, down throw, and then turns right around?
Yeah, very interesting, because that down throw looks almost janky, because it's like he's facing the other direction already, but the down throw still ends up hitting the tropetal. I think he also uses the homing feature as well.
Yeah, it looks like he down throws and homes in on the tropetal. In my attempt of the route, I had a similar thing, but it was much more difficult, and it seems like Cookie managed to make it work in a way that makes that throw a lot easier, but it's still, that angle looks really hard to get that throw and then turn around right away.
Yeah, and then one thing it looks like everyone did here, I myself actually ended up doing this as well, it seems to be the fastest movement for the tree, is we see different movements towards the tree, we see long jumps and double jumps, but everybody basically tries to dive on the very top of the tree, so Mario is already in the flinging position where all you need to do is press B to have him leap off the tree. And then they'd press that button, go into an instant dive and roll off the side of the leaf, which seems to be the fastest option nonetheless, because you will go flying towards these fuzzies on the lower end.
Yeah, that roll boost on the top of the leaf, that was a really hard part about this one. Like, when I was attempting this, I knew that the roll boost on the leaf was the fastest, but getting that boost I found to be really difficult. So it's impressive that all of them managed to do the roll boost on the leaf and have such clean routes all around that too.
This is the common ground these runs share here, but now, since we'd already talked about Cookie's start here, let's look at Relaxmus' start, because he opts to go over to the other side here and down throw to the other tropetal. Actually, none of the other runners used that so far here in this top 4, and that's super interesting, because obviously that adds a little bit more backtracking, but that allows him to not... He doesn't need to go down there, so he doesn't need to do any awkward movement. He just goes over there, does the down throw, and then makes his way over to the tree.
It seems like the hardest part about Relaxmus is right here when he dives over the poison like that. That seems like it would cause some problems sometimes. If you dive just slightly too late, you'd just die.
It seems like it would be possible to maybe roll cancel, however, I'm not sure if Cappy would be back in time to perform that down throw, so maybe that dive was actually the only option to make that work.
It's really cool that he managed to make that tropetal work and get into top 4.
Alright, and if we go up to Circle and Tuval, things change up a little bit again, because one thing they have in common again, after that roll boost, both of them are actually able to avoid diving and get themselves into a position where they're just barely close enough to spin throw towards the fuzzies without diving on that little tree stump, which is actually big, because diving, no matter how well you do it, is still going to result in Mario doing a ground pound animation into that dive, so it actually does cost some time. I'm just realizing Cookie actually cut out that dive as well, but Relaxmus ended up doing that dive. But the way Tuval and Circle got into that spot seemed actually very efficient, and they just barely hit these fuzzies with the spin throw.
The reason why Relaxmus had to land on that stump there is because they didn't vector to get over, where I think pretty much everyone else went a little bit further to the right and then turned to the left, where Relaxmus went for a more direct line and didn't get that extra distance from the vectoring.
Yeah, from my personal side, I can actually say that I have been trying, even with vectoring, to make that. But even then, that spin throw, and it's visible there on Tuval's instruction, is very, very close. Like, it will just barely hit the fuzzy. So if you vector a little bit not far enough, you wouldn't be able to actually make it over to that spot to have the spin throw land on the fuzzies. But other than that, Tuval's and Circle's clip here actually pretty similar. However, the start here is actually super impressive in my opinion, and it's so interesting as they start at the same time, because Tuval actually doesn't do a spin pound. He just starts rolling towards that edge.
Yes, Circle goes for the spin pound, and Tuval just rolls.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure if that ended up saving him time, because it looks like they do the throw almost at the same time, but then since Tuval, for some reason, it's super easy for him to turn. I want to actually look at this. I'm not quite understanding yet.
It does look like it saved Tuval a little bit of time. He does touch the ground a little bit earlier, and also, I think...
But further back.
Yeah, he's further back and does a down throw to reach the trap beetle, where Circle instead does a cap throw in the air to stop himself.
Oh, that's a normal aired cap throw. Okay, because either a spin throw or a down throw would have been way better than Tuval decides to go for the down throw.
Yeah, and I think Tuval, he touches the ground, uses the down throw, and he can turn while he's down throwing to move his momentum backwards.
Yeah, you can actually spin throw or down throw and jump at the same time and can turn while that happens. I've been using that on my own task, but instead I did a triple jump, so I obviously lost a lot of time to that start.
And then, yeah, it looks like that's what saved most of the time in Tuval's route, is really that down throw and turning at the same time, where Circle cap threw in the air and that stopped his momentum completely, and he had to get all of that back.
Yeah.
But they both do the double jump to get up, which is really tight.
That is super tight. I tried it and it's so frustrating.
I tried it for a few minutes and I was like, no, it's impossible. I can't get it. And they made that work.
And that's probably essential to why Tuval's time is so low here. Not only that he was actually pretty optimal with the throw towards the trapetal and the spin throw at the end, obviously all of them doing that roll on the leaf, but him doing the double jump there, turning super early, having a very nice line, and then long jump, single jump, dive, and instantly over to that leaf. It's just...
And that's another thing too, is another little time save that Tuval does is, instead of doing the double jump up to the tree like Circle, Tuval does a long jump, which is usually slow, but after the dive, I guess it's probably saves a few frames to get to that tree and just lines up the jumps a little bit better.
Yeah, I think, wait, what was he even needed to dive? Or did he just do long jump, single jump? Let me actually see. Long jump, single jump. And he did end up diving, but he was super close when he actually did the dive, because if we look at Circle screen there as well, these two double jumps, they actually even felt slow. Like, I remember doing that myself, and they kind of feel so. You go up, down, and Circle just cuts that distance with the long jump, single jump, dive, and he's up to the top.
There are such small movement differences, but they add up so much. Like, 0.6 seconds in a task that is this short is absolutely insane to win by. So, like, Tuval did an incredible job this task to win by that much. Like, 0.6 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but when we're talking about one that is under 8 seconds, that is huge.
Yeah, it's crazy. And if you compare this to last week's task, which was like a task that was around 16 seconds long. I mean, like around that, I think no one actually got sub 16. And if you think about that time, I mean, obviously you didn't have too many windows to improve that, because you were kind of forced to either do a long wire capture or the banzai build section. In this one, you had free movement all over the place. Like, it was all up to you where to save and lose time. But still, 0.6 is, I think, the highest, at least this season, someone has won by. Equan had a good time in the first task, but I think it wasn't 0.6. It was maybe like 0.45 or something, maybe 0.5, but not 0.6.
Yeah, really impressive. And really, under 8 seconds in this task is really crazy. There was a lot of really cool movement, not even if you're under 8 seconds. Like, so many people had unique ideas for movement that was really just awesome. Just awesome. One thing before I forget, shoutouts to Genetic Console with the invisibility cap. Crazy.
No, for sure. Like, I ended up just barely getting below that 8-second mark, and for me, it actually didn't take me too much runs to get that time. The first thing, like, and that's actually the last thing I want to go over here when it comes to analyzing this task. It was a really cool process, at least for me personally, how I approached this task, because at first it's usually check out which checkpoint is the best one. I decided on that one very, very quickly. The other checkpoints just didn't seem good enough. But then I actually started doing I didn't realize that you could actually abuse the staircase to cut out a wall jump. Initially, I tried to do like a triple jump into a wall jump and then dive back towards that ledge. That was obviously super slow. Then I actually tried to do like a dive vault on top of that tree there and realized, okay, that looks cool. That kind of gets you in the right direction, but if you can do this roll boost on that leaf, you go flying towards those fuzzies, and that's obviously the way more direct line. And then yeah, you put the pieces together, and that's actually, that took really long for me, this task, and then it didn't even took too long to get a decent run of it. It still was frustrating, and I actually also ended up using assist mode, which was a big winner here, especially if you wanted to use music during your submission, because if you didn't, you would have died.
Absolutely.
And yeah, super interesting task.
Yeah, I definitely used assist mode in mine.
Yeah, interesting. 2-while circle, not using assist mode. Both also with the normal Mario outfit. It seems like almost like since I usually see Circle using like his outfits, his signature outfits. This seems like the desperate submission. You know these when you already gave up on the task and then I'm in a run. Let me try again, and then you just go in and decide to do one attempt, and maybe that actually happened.
I think that's exactly what Circle said in the tasks chat on the Discord. He said that he didn't get music or anything just because it was an attempt that he didn't expect to go anywhere.
Well, anyways, pretty impressive top 4 once again. Pretty impressive, like the entire, basically everyone that submitted here had an impressive showing. And obviously it does take quite the dedication and quite a good amount of work to actually grind these tasks, especially. It's hard to not get frustrated on movement like this tree especially, but sometimes you just gotta force yourself, and it's gonna be worth when you see yourself on the top 24. So this is gonna be my call here for everyone to at least try to go to their limits, get a good clip in. It's gonna be worth, it's gonna feel great. And talking about this, I'm pretty sure we are gonna be having a new task coming up this week, SmallAnt, so maybe it's the time to reveal that one.
Yeah, here's the next task in Ruined Kingdom.